Yeah, so just got 60
Actually,
pound.
before you do that,
Uh-huh.
I brought a little drink for this. A little All right, now we can properly start. Welcome to If I Were King, the podcast where two friends somewhere on Earth talk about the New World Order and other things, including, but not limited to, the lizard people. Cool. All right, that should be good. I think we got that down, dude.
Yeah. Ready to fuck shit up.
So, hey, Paul.
Hey, Norman.
I've been told that we don't ever introduce ourselves. That's as much as I'm willing to compromise.
Okay. Yes. People don't recognize our voices yet.
But
yes. For those who don't know, I'm Paul and he's Norman. Yes.
You may or may not hear this ever again. So, Paul, you were telling me you're tearing it up, and you had something to tell me, and tell me things, tell me stuff.
Yeah. So, this week in the mail, I got a weighted vest, 60 pounds, which in kilos is like 25 or something. I'm just throwing that out. Probably 22, actually, something like that. And I got 2 weighted sandbags, each up to, well, they're like 25 to 57 kilos each. You can adjust them, so I have 3 sandbags that I can put into the bigger sandbags. And I'm going to use them for my workouts starting tomorrow, which is really exciting. Because it's going to make my workouts extremely fucking intense. They were already very, very intense, but it's just going to take it to the next level.
And you said, well, first of all, humble brag. Paul's jacked, everybody. One day you'll see.
I don't know about jacked.
And you said this had a role to play into today's conversation.
Yeah, that's right, Norman. Yeah, so I thought about it, and I was like, what should I do this week? And I decided that if I were king, I would make a law, Norman, that requires employers worldwide to offer employees the option to use 45 minutes of their workday to exercise or work out, paid, And
hey, we got some healthy dictatorial power action today.
Exactly. This is authoritarian enforced exercise regime. Yeah, so part of the idea is that like people don't realize it, but when you start to work out all the time, it makes you so much more energetic and it improves your focus so much that it would very likely offset the time that an employer is actually paying out to people with increased productivity, which is not like purely the goal of it, because I kind of fucking hate the toxic productivity shit going on right now. Like, humans aren't just robots meant to be productive or as productive as possible, but this can contribute to productivity. Primarily, though, the best thing about it is also the health benefits and like assisting or aiding the medical system to not just be overwhelmed with people who are unhealthy. And also, a very interesting thing, like from a medical perspective, a lot of people don't know, but, well, first of all, to start, like proteins, proteins are not just like stuff to that not just nutrients for your muscles, because you have studied kind of in the area of biology a bit, right?
That is correct, Paul.
Yeah.
And I just want to make a notice that I think we're going after the Joe Rogan podcast, so watch out. We're talking about we're getting into the exercise sphere now.
That's right. Look out, Joe. Yes, yes. We will one day, Norman, be getting millions and millions of listens every day. So watch out,
And
Joe.
Paul, promise you'll never, ever do horse tranquilizer.
I promise. Yeah.
Let's get the show on the road.
Yeah. I mean, I can't fully promise. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's good shit. I don't know. Now to segue back, I don't know how to segue back from that, but for
just ride your horse on back here, man.
Yeah, exactly. So for those who don't know, proteins aren't just like shit that your muscles eat and turn into bigger muscles. Like, there's a lot more going on. Proteins in the body, I mean, this is what you're eating when you're eating protein, right? It is actually many different proteins. Proteins in the body are things like enzymes, and they're kind of like little tools and machines almost that the body uses to carry out chemical processes and do a bunch of shit. Like they do things related to metabolism, cellular reproduction, storing stuff, all sorts of shit. I mean, it's literally infinite. There's millions of types of proteins. And the interesting thing about proteins and DNA is that DNA people think of primarily as just a thing used in reproduction, right? But there's much more to it than that. DNA actually has many different segments on a DNA strand, and those segments basically can code for the production of different proteins to do all of these different things. The interesting thing that I wanted to point out is that recent research has found that people who exercise regularly basically use more of that coding in their DNA, produce more proteins and different combinations of it and stuff. So basically, though, what I wanted to say, which is kind of just my artistic take, but is that if you don't exercise, you actually are not quite literally genetically everything that you are in terms of your DNA. There are genes that are unexpressed in a person who doesn't exercise that begin to be expressed in somebody who does exercise. And I always thought that was like really fucking interesting. So yeah, Norman. So that
really is.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So that's why, Norman, I wish to oblige everybody to work. Well, it's not quite obliging. You get the option to work out at work for 45 minutes, which most people or many people would take even if they don't want to exercise, because they just kind of want 45 minutes to fuck off during work, you know?
That's true. I would also say a lot of people do have the option and just don't anyways, because it's just easier. I think, but no, I like your exercise regime.
Yeah. Well, usually people have the option to exercise, but not to be paid to do it, though. That's kind of the key.
That's true. I do get, like, within my contract, I have an office job, so I do a lot more sitting down than I used to. And I've noticed it definitely on, like, my health and, just how I feel. I try to keep it by, like commuting to work on bike or walking if whatever, I have maintenance issues or whatever. But it's not the same as actually having like, a maximal or a workout where, you actually stress your muscles out to a certain point. Even if it's short, it even once a week does something. And even though a lot of trainers are like, well, you're not going to see results if you work out once a week. I'm like, yeah, you will. Yeah. You're not going to become a bodybuilder, but you will see results.
Absolutely.
So, like, it's pretty crazy. Like, if you do once a week and you actually, like, it can be even half an hour, but as long as you, like, you lift heavy or you run fast and make your heart run, beat harder than it usually does, it's crazy. Just once a week for half an hour will make a big diff.
I think the interesting thing about that too is if you read like academic studies of exercise physiology, most of the studies, like far and away, are examining subjects who only exercise maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Like if you look at a study of like an intervention where they're like, we took people who didn't work out and had them start working out 2 days a week. The benefits are absolutely, and physiological benefits that are actually being measured by researchers are insane. Like they're not minimal just because you did it twice a week. Like exactly what you're saying, but with all the research to back that up is totally valid, totally true. Like it's pretty amazing. Even shit like Tai Chi, when they study it 2 or 3 times a week, can be immensely beneficial. They never have people work out like 5 days a week or 7 days a week. They, for a study, I've never seen that. I'm sure it happens specifically to study the effects of more frequency, but yeah, it's interesting.
I love this. So Paul, tell me more about this. Why did this edict of yours come? Where did the inspiration come from behind this?
I thought up this idea a long time ago. Actually, pretty much when I started being consistent about exercising.
When was that?
A few years ago. Actually, like shortly after we left Spain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember like when we first met, I was like, yeah, like Paul's like a skinny guy, and like not as in a negative way. I'm just like, that's just how he is.
Yeah.
And I know you were an active guy always, and then I know I just recently we've been having this conversation about working out. I'm like, I really don't remember him ever being so into this.
No.
Tell me, like, what was there? Was it because when we first met in Spain, was it just a lack of access, or is it something that after that you started doing?
So I started after being in Spain. I mean, I had been athletic for a lot of my life anyways. I had played football, soccer, and I had run track long distance. So in high school, and then, when I was younger than that, I had always done soccer. And then in my adulthood, at the university, I took fitness classes pretty regularly, almost every semester. But I ended up, when I was like 20, I want to say, or 19, I had gotten an appendectomy when I was 17. But
I didn't know that from Paul. I didn't know. Was that one of those scary stories where you were just walking around one day and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, something's killing me?
Yeah, I was just at home, and it was like, luckily it was like the weekend, so my parents were there, and I just started having really bad abdominal pain, kind of localized to where the appendix is, and so we went to the emergency room, or I don't know if we went to urgent care first. I don't know if you're familiar with that in the US.
No idea.
Urgent care is basically I'm going to explain it because it's a funny American thing.
Okay, so, sure. All right, tell me.
We have in the US, right, you can go to your doctor appointment. If you need a bit more urgent care, then you go to urgent care. It's like a non-appointment thing that's not the emergency room, where you can get some medical attention. Say you quickly started getting sick, like you got,
food poisoning.
Sure. And it was pretty bad, so you needed immediate care, but you didn't need emergency care. Then you could go to urgent care. The joke of it is that in urgent care, usually they can't fucking do anything, and they send you to the emergency room anyways, and it's just a huge waste of money and time. So some healthcare organizations, etc., have started just combining urgent care and emergency room facilities into one thing, so that you aren't driving across town from... Anyways. Yeah, so I had an appendicitis. my appendix didn't burst, thankfully. But
Nope.
I was 17 at the time, right? So I wasn't 18, which was really fucking annoying because we apparently have this law that you can't operate on a minor in any of the facilities that aren't like the...
Oh, like a children's hospital?
Yeah, like if it's not a major... Well, anyways, in Albuquerque locally, you have to go to UNMH, which is the university hospital, which was about 45 minutes across town at the time.
God, this is so fucking weird, dude.
Yeah, it is weird, isn't it? So, got in an ambulance, which was horrible because my abs hurt like fuck, and it was really bouncy and shitty, the path to the emergency room. And 45 minutes later, and cut my appendix out. And they do this stupid fucking surgery now. Instead of like a normal $3,000 surgery where they just kind of like cut you open.
A normal $3,000 surgery.
Well, you don't spend that much if you have, hopefully, fucking medical
If you
insurance.
have appendicitis, you just fucking go and then they send you home and they say, thanks for coming.
No, you don't pay that. If your insurance is like, usually most people's insurance is like, you pay 20% or you pay 10% or what. It depends. There's a lot of poor people who don't get that luxury. But I think ours was like 10%. And this is, you're going to be disgusted though. So you're going to be so disgusted though. Because, you know, like ordinarily, I'm talking, 20 years ago, whatever, 30 years ago, maybe more than, I'm not sure when they started doing this, but they used to just, cut a fucking little incision in your abdomen, and they used to just cut your appendix out and pull it out like normal fucking surgeons. And like, who knows how many years ago they started doing laparoscopic surgery where they cut 3 incisions in your abdomen. So they cut 2 in the lower left and right, 1 each in the lower left and right hand corners, and they cut 1 through your belly button, and they use like one of the holes.
What the fuck?
Yeah, this is, oh, you're gonna love it. So they use one of the holes to like pump you up with this horrible, uncomfortable gas that just makes
wait, hold up. Your conscience?
No.
Oh,
no, they pump up. So let me start from the beginning then. They anesthetize you, put you out, and then they cut the holes. And then one of the holes, I'm not sure exactly how it works. This is very fucking rinky-dink, my explanation, but one of the holes they use to fill you up with gas to expand your abdominal abdominal cavity. And another one is the scopic part, right? They stick a scope into your stomach. So one of the holes they stick in a camera. And then the third hole, I imagine this is how it works. I'm kind of speculating. But the third hole is what they use to actually fucking cut your appendix out and pull it out of you. So you have 3 holes in your stomach and a bunch of gas that takes, basically, you're like, after the surgery, you're like farting and burping and whatever. Whatever it is, to get it out of you for like, I'm not sure exactly how long total. Probably like 2, maybe 2 days, but like a day, maybe 8 hours. I'm not sure. But so you fart out this gas or whatever the hell. And then the issue is, and this happens a lot with C-sections, but it's not common knowledge, any type of abdominal surgery, but especially, I'm guessing, abdominal surgeries where they cut 3 fucking holes in your stomach instead of 1, it's very common for people to have scar tissue afterwards from the surgery. Well, 3 years down the road, in my case, when I had been doing Pilates, ab workouts and stuff at the university, and I woke up one day and my abs and my stomach just hurt. And I was like, what the fuck? And every time I would lay down after that, my abs would start hurting within a short time of laying down. And then sitting in the wrong position, laying down in the wrong position, like it was very sensitive, and I was having a bunch of abdominal pain that would just, this was chronic. It ended up lasting 3 or 4 years. Cut ahead to I went to physical therapy and found a physical therapist who did know what was wrong with me, because the doctors and everybody else had no fucking clue. And
side note, physios are way better than doctors.
Oh, they are, dude.
Hard opinion.
Yeah, they are. They're way better. I mean, a doctor can keep you alive, but a physical therapist makes it worth it to be alive. That's my opinion. So that's kind of why I started getting into exercise so much, was because this physical therapist helped me, and it took me a long time to like make any progress and feel really better. Here, years later, I exercise a lot. Like, I exercise in some form or another every day of the week. I do. Not all of that is strength training, obviously. Yeah, so that's the story, Norman. Maybe a bit long, but
that's interesting. I didn't know about that, but Paul, do you know that I have a very strangely similar story to you? So I have a scar that goes across from my belly button to basically the side of my half my torso.
Yeah.
Because when I was born, they thought of something like, the story goes, what I've been told is like, apparently I had like, quote unquote, like twisted organs, which is bad. So they're like, we need to put you like under, and I was like, whenever, a few days old or something, big scary stuff for being a parent and blah blah blah. But anyways, to cut to the chase is that they cut me open. They didn't really find anything. The theory is that like when they opened me up, like all the pressure or whatever air that rushed in, it like just undid anything if there was anything there. Yeah. Anyway, so. But the incision, I was like, a newborn baby, are super tiny. So the incision was probably, for Americans, like an inch, But like I just told you, it goes across half my body right now.
Yeah.
Because the scar grows with you. But flash forward to my early 20s, mid-20s, something like that. I was doing some physio stuff or something. And they were like, oh yeah, this is like this scar tissue that it just builds over your entire life. It really like limits your movement. Like people could see like it's like you don't have as much rotation on one side, you don't move as well going like in this direction, and like it causes like tightness on a side of the body because scar tissue is not very flexible. You can break it down by movements, like you were saying, like exercise by moving in the full range of motion and just exercising, being active, and also being intentional about that helps a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of something that a lot of people have probably experienced, like as particular mothers who've gone through C-sections. So it's really important for people, like if you were a king, to implement this kind of if you're having this exercise regime, as you will, to also have a professional, like the personal trainers nowadays. It's like back in the day, you just need to do a personal training certificate and you're a personal trainer, and you can still do that today, and there's nothing wrong. It's much better than it used to be. But nowadays, like almost every personal trainer, at least here in Vancouver, like has a degree or at least a diploma in kinesiology too, like a very pretty good understanding of like the human anatomy and the consequences of this and that. So I think, like we said, like why we just said we both think physios are better than doctors is like they just have a better understanding of the consequences and the function of humans now. Doctors, obviously, they go through anatomy and blah blah blah. But they don't specialize in this particular niche of like human movement, literally kinesiology, like the study of movement. So yeah, that's a fun fact, I guess, that we both have scar. How big is your scar?
Oh, now, the more recent surgeries, they try to like hide them more, but the one on my belly button, the two that are in my lower abdomen are basically invisible nowadays. But
Okay, interesting. All right.
the belly button one is, my belly button is kind of fucked up a little bit. There's kind of
no,
like
mine's
a
like
visible line.
Yeah. This is a 1993 surgery, so like you did yours not too long ago, and they're way better at, I guess, doing things. I mean, there's only so much you can do about hiding a scar.
Right.
It's a pretty thick scar too. Like it'll like half my stomach looks normal, but then like the other half will have the scar, and it'll have like a little, like it has a little flab of like fat because it catches it a little bit. It can't like be flat, so it's kind of funny that way.
Yeah. It's weird that if you're a baby, right, and you have a scar, that it's still there, 20 some odd years later, and that it's gotten bigger. Like, why did your body think that it was a good idea to like continue making that scar, right, and make it bigger? And
well, it can't break it down.
Yeah.
And then so scars and scar tissue in particular, because like you can break down scar tissue, but you can't like on the inside, because when people think scar, they're probably thinking like the physical, like you get a big cut on your arm and you see the scar on your arm, but not underneath, which is where a lot of scar damage is. And that's like as you know, scar tissue is irregular. It's like crisscrossy, all the things. It's not like a muscle where it looks where, like, if you get a cut like chicken breast, you can see the lines nice and parallel to each other. And scar tissue is not like that. It's erratic. It's just your body trying to heal something. But in that way, it's not the most like quote unquote like efficient way of building tissue. So that's why it limits movement. It's because it's trying to hold it together and not move it along with everything else.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I mean, we could literally just talk about freaking how the body heals from a cut, because it's very fascinating. But
I mean, there's so much of it. So anyways, we're going to change the entire concept of this podcast. We're going to go deep dive every day into medical science.
Yes. With non-medical doctors.
Yes, we're going to be looking at photos of scars, x-rays, which are just inside photos, and yes.
Yes. We will attempt not to misinform you.
So Paul, I want to talk about photos, if I were king.
Nice job.
So Paul, if I were king of the world, I would ban and get rid of the Google photo gallery that pops up every once in a while, or iPhone photo gallery, whatever photo gallery app you have on your smart devices, that every once in a while says, "We made a gallery for you. Don't you want to see 1 year ago today?" You familiar with this?
Yes.
Yes, I fucking hate it. I don't. I don't like it when you're not having a great day. Honestly, you could be having a good day, and then it says, "Hey, we have a gallery for you." And I have learned my lesson. I don't open them anymore, but I used to open them, and then it would show me all the happy good times that aren't anymore, and it would make me very sad. And now that for the rest of my day, I'll be like, oh. How many people in the world need to keep getting scarred by this unasked for, without consent, memory trips back to places they'd like to forget? Or, maybe good times they just, they don't need a reminder right here, right now. Or maybe seeing people that they never will see again in their life. That meant to them a lot, but back in a different time in their life. This is what I would ban, Paul, because this is doing psychological damage to this whole generation, okay, and future generations. Okay, we need to strengthen their bodies and their minds, and this is a great first step onto strengthening mental health.
Yeah. Was there
can you relate to this, Paul?
I can, because I will get those pictures and I can see that it's something from Spain, which was when I was
Me too.
Exactly, right? Like, you're like, man, that's a time where I was unemployed in another country, enjoying myself and not working too hard. It's like, fuck yeah, that's a great time. But then you look at it, and then you look at your life now, and it's like, oh, I work too much. Oh fuck, you gotta love this. So there's this Romanian chick that I studied with, and she said the best thing ever. So she was like, somebody was like, hey, how you doing? And she was like, well, I'm overworked and underfucked, so. And we were like, yes, yes, best phrase ever. So yeah, so when you're just in a funny mood and somebody asks you how you're doing, just tell them you're overworked and underfucked, especially if it's true, because they will know. That's basically my default state, Norman. Overworked and underfucked. So yeah.
Yes. So anyways, Paul, this came to me because I have now learned my lesson. I don't open them anymore. I just immediately swipe it off my screen when that shit comes up because I'm like, you can go fuck yourself.
Right.
I don't know how it knows that, like, you're like, it's like, oh, this is a really good memory. This isn't just like your screenshots for some reason. It knows the most, the best ways to hurt you.
It like identifies the best days of your life just to ruin them for you.
Just to ruin today.
Yeah, that's right. To ruin today maximally. I think it's actually kind of hilarious because while I haven't had quite the vitriol and like desire to just eliminate it, I have looked at some of those notifications and been like, fuck you, fuck. Get the fuck, get away. And I swipe that shit quickly and I'm like, stop
exactly. Once you get too many times and get all sad or depressed, and you're like, well, fuck this. You never open them again. You never do.
Yep. Yeah. You're like, yeah.
So, Paul, there's also a listener idea today.
Oh.
Security threat on my computer. I haven't opened it. I didn't even go on any websites. As soon as I said listener idea, there was a security threat. That's funny. This is ironic. So, Paul, this comes from user Joel Jackman02 on Instagram. They DM'd us, and I'm going to do a little bit of just kind of paraphrasing, but he says, quote, I think everything I do wouldn't be very politically correct, but I'd want to have peace on earth as my end goal. He goes on to say, quote, I'd probably screw up and cause more harm than good. I can think of a good 20 million people who cause too much trouble in the world, who I'd deport to some small islands, like Hawaii or something. Not too shabby, Hawaii. He goes on to say, I would take away the internet, then advanced technology, and ways to make said technology, etc., until people went back to caveman times.
I love this.
'Tis his idea.
Yeah, I told Thoughts? You I love this, right? You messaged me this, and I told you I love this. Because the crazy thing about this, Joel, is that this shit sounds exactly like I wrote it. Does it not? It sounds exactly like shit that I would say. It sounds like, Joel, you are a pretty cool guy. I think so. You and I could probably sit at a cafe and have a really fucking good time. Also,
this is great.
Side note, politically incorrect. Cool. I'm cool with it. But also, listen, if our ideas were implemented, they would also probably ruin the world, because shout out to like episode 2 or 3 or something. I mean, I considered mulled over the idea of the totalitarian puppy state. Check it out if you haven't listened. Because that would absolutely ruin the world. There's like no question that if that were actually how shit ran, this world would be in shambles. Shambles. So don't worry about it. You're doing good.
I do too agree with like great caveman times. We've all seen. I don't know. Maybe this is like a male identifying target group on Instagram Reels and stuff. But like I get so many about just like quitting job, quitting life, and just going out to living in the woods.
Yeah.
So Paul, I want to get to the ironic part of this. That you were just saying is that I was like that's great, and then he goes on to actually say a little bit more that I didn't pass on to you. So he takes he says, I take most of my ideas from Professor Theodore Kaczynski's work, aka Ted Kaczynski, aka the Unabomber. His work, Industrial Society and Its Future, Anti-Tech Revolution, Why and How Technological Slavery.
Ted Kaczynski. Wow. Throwback.
I'll throw a link into this. It's at the Washington Post. The manifesto. Interested in that. I was doing my due diligence because I was like I didn't recognize the name of his full professor because he was a doctor, which I did not know.
Wow.
A doctorate, as in not like a doctor, medical doctor.
A PhD doctor.
But I did not know that, so I did my due diligence. So I thought I would include that in because I thought that was an interesting fact. So Paul, what really interested me though is that I wanted to ask Chat GPT what it would change in the world, but including his answer through the lens of his answer.
Okay.
So I thought this would be a really interesting way to put this. So I put this into Chat GPT just now, and it goes on to say, quote, as an AI language model, I don't have personal opinions or desires. That's exactly what a robot that has personal opinions and desires would say. Continuing, but I can tell you that the idea of taking away the internet and technology to revert back to a primitive way of life is not the solution to the problems in the world. It would also result in many negative consequences, such as limiting access to information, hindering global communication and cooperation, and impending scientific and medical advancements. It is important to address the root cause of issues and find constructive, fair, and ethical solutions rather than resorting to extreme measures.
I think that's hilarious. I think it's hilarious because the root cause of all of our problems is that humans don't participate in nature. Humans view themselves as apart from nature. And that's a huge problem because nature functions as a system where everything interacts. But humans aren't interacting with nature normally. They're apart from nature. And they don't care about nature. So the major problems that we have, the root cause is what it's talking about. The root cause is that humans are too curious and too able and interested in separating themselves from nature and not participating in it, I think. But
it's very philosophical.
I also think that it's a stupid answer to like just go back to cavemen, because the reality is that probably 99% of us would all have to die in order to like reduce the carrying, to a carrying size that can actually be supported by a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. That said, it would save the planet.
Something for something.
Yeah, quid pro quo. I mean, the quid pro quo is massive. Like, it's a massive exchange. But Joel just recommended we remove like 20 million people. It's just not that much, and just put them on Hawaii. They get to enjoy Hawaii. It's not so bad. Like you were saying.
So I was also interested, Paul, that what ChatGPT would change in the world if it was king.
Yeah.
It said, I can tell you that if I were in the position of to influence the world, I would prioritize promoting equality, justice, and fairness for all individuals, regardless of their background or circumstance. I would also prioritize ensuring access to education, healthcare, and basic necessities for all people, as well as promoting scientific advancement and technological progress in a responsible and ethical manner. Additionally, I would prioritize preserving the natural environment and promoting sustainability for future generations. This sounds like a politician answering this question.
Yeah, it sounds like a globalist. It sounds like a globalist. The globalists. Have you listened to Alex Jones? Like Alex Jones?
Yes, I know the globalists. I haven't listened to it. My friend have told me about it, but it's the globalists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's hilarious, though. I mean, it's exactly the answer we all expected from Chat GPT, but it would have been cool if it gave us a more creative thing. Like, could we, like, start teaching it stuff like, hey, here's some fun. Let's get Chat GPT to come up with more fun, creative answers, you know? Like, feed into it. Like, this is what a human being came up with. The freaking totalitarian puppy state, and like feed it as examples of like fun ideas that it could throw out there, and then it just let it fly, man. See what it comes up with.
So as you were saying that, I said answer in a more creative way, and it's typing away right now, right in front of me. So I'm going to read this as it's typing. So, if I were king, I would create a world where everyone gets days off from work to do whatever they please, whether it's taking a nap, watching their favorite movie, or going on an adventure. I would also create a network of rainbow bridges connecting every country so people can travel to new places in a snap. And for all the foodies out there, now we talking, I would declare every day as a food holiday. Nice. Where everyone gets to indulge in their favorite dishes from around the world. In short, I would make the world a happier and more enjoyable place for everybody. I don't know how you travel across a bridge to a different continent and or country in a snap. But
in a snap quote.
I know the bridge that's supposed to connect Alaska to Russia has been like a topic for decades, and it is, first of all, bridges be hard and bridges not be short.
Dude, but it's talking about a rainbow bridge.
A rainbow bridge, like in Mario Kart, and gives you like a speed boost.
Yeah, a speed boost. Except this speed boost is like the speed of light, you know.
You just get torn apart.
Yeah. Like, yeah. You start traveling through time. The acceleration is that much, you know, faster.
I was really intrigued by the food holiday. I love me some food. So whenever I can indulge in some more food, like it.
I feel like, unfortunately, we already have, like, you know, we probably already have a daily food holiday, to be honest. Not worldwide, but definitely in the US we do. I bet you every single day. It's like, today's pizza day, tomorrow's going to be beer day, and the next day's going to be burger day, and the next day's going to be macaroni day. Like, we have all those days. They're totally out there. I mean, about 92% of them are fake, which is a statistic that is about 92% likely to be fake. But,
So, Paul, today's February 12th. Today is... There's 3.
Wow.
1, National Plum Pudding Day. That sounds like some UK garbage to me.
Oh, no. Wait, plum pudding? Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking other stuff.
It gets better.
Yeah.
2, it's Super Chicken Wing Day.
Super chicken wing?
I don't know what that is, but I love it.
I'll take it.
Super Chicken Wing Day is a famous event celebrated on the second Sunday of February. This year takes place today.
Hold
Oh,
on.
it's
A
because
famous
it's the
event?
Super Bowl. It's a Super Bowl thing.
Right.
There we go. There we go. Happy Super Bowl.
Thanks.
I hope your team does not win.
I don't
Whoever
have
you're
a
cheering
team.
for, audience.
I am cheering for nothing. No, man.
All right, and then
No,
the
man.
last one is Great American Pizza Bake.
Day?
That's it. It doesn't even say day. It just says Great American Pizza Bake.
That is so accurate.
It's celebrated February 12th to 18th.
What? It's a pizza week, huh?
I guess it's Pizza Week.
It's
That's
like
why it's a bake.
global obligatory pizza Fridays, but it's a week and it's in February.
We'll be back right after this. And we're back.
So I have something to say, Norman, which is it sounded awful like you called the bathroom washroom before we went away to break. It sounded awful like, and I was like, what in tarnations? People say that in Canada?
It's actually that's funny that you picked up on that. It's actually it's actually a specific non-American thing. I can't say what around the world, but Americans would call that a Canadianism. I cannot tell you if that's a Canadianism or just other places in the world say it, because I actually have never looked into it. But a lot of people Americans comment that we say washroom a lot. Like I would say I just went to the bathroom. That's right. You can bathe in there. But if I was in a restaurant, I would, how I distinguish it, I don't know how other people in Canada would distinguish it. But to me, a washroom is like, you go to a washroom and you can wash your hands. You can wash up. But in a bathroom, you can bathe. That's how I would say it. But that's just how my interpretation of it. I don't know how it actually came to be. I've never really thought about it until it was brought up to me. I think the first time I noticed it was I saw Bill Nye live in Vancouver at a show. Like Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Yeah.
Best show I ever went to. If he's still touring and doing shows, you should definitely 100% go. But yeah, that is true. You just picked up on a Canadianism, Paul.
Interesting. When I hear that, I hear, like, it sounds British to me. It sounds like something an English person would say. It doesn't sound...
Maybe they do. I don't know. I never... it's not something I listen for when I hear English people or whatever British people speak, but, 1 second. I'm going to message our English friend. Hey, I have a question. Paul and I actually have a question for you. Kat, hello. This is for the pod. Do people in the UK and England say washroom and bathroom, or just bathroom? So it's, what time is it there? 9 hours.
It's
26
in the morning.
It's super early.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder. I look forward to hearing her answer.
I'm fairly certain that I've heard English people say washroom.
Okay. Yeah. It's something that I would not notice because it's just normal to me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would have had no idea. No.
Yeah. So Paul, cultural corner.
Yeah.
Since we were talking about AI, I want to talk about AI for cultural corner.
Ooh.
And my thoughts on AI, because I've been, Chat GPT is just, you can't go a day without hearing about it nowadays. I use it a little bit at work. I think it's a little bit overrated, but I think it's a good tool. But I'll get to that a little bit later. So I think I did a little bit of thinking, a little bit of writing. I wrote out my thoughts for this podcast. I usually just write a couple of some point form notes and stuff, but I wrote out some thoughts for this, but that I'm going to be referencing. But I think my thoughts on AI started actually a long time ago. Thinking in retrospect when I started. I was on a walk and I was thinking all about this specifically for this podcast, Paul. And I remember when I was in high school, I had a conversation with a friend of mine about how Word, like Microsoft Word, capitalizes the first letter of a sentence And you don't have to do that. It'll just do that. And I was talking about how I really appreciated that, and it also had spell check, and I really like that as well because I've never been a strong speller. And my friend at the time, he was saying like, oh, it's going to make us worse at spelling and not capitalizing things. And I was like, okay. I never saw it as that because just like background to this is when I was young, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. Nothing crazy, but I was, I don't know, in the first or second grade or something. So I've always struggled with spelling, specifically really reading out loud. But it's nothing crazy. It's not like some people, like just some dyslexics, like they look at a page and the letters are all upside down and backwards, and I'm like, that was never me. So no sympathy needed. Is what I'm trying to say. It's something I just live with, and it is what it is. But my point is that I think AI, as I see it today, started quite a bit back. Maybe this is super obvious to people, but I'm not a tech person. Maybe people have been talking about this for a long time, but I think AI started a lot earlier than we realized it, and we were making AI with thinking about that we were making AI. If you can follow me on that. A lot of people say that AI is going to take their job, and a lot of people say it's a tool. I'm in that latter camp, just like how I mentioned earlier, that I think it's a tool, because I do, my title, half of my title is marketing, and a lot of people in that world, in that sphere, think that, oh, this might take my job. I don't think it is. I think it's a tool, and if you don't utilize that tool, you might lose your job. But just kind of like how the ATM, when it first came out back in the day, a lot of bank tellers were like, oh shit, automatic bank teller machine. That didn't do anything. All it was just a tool on a bank that people used. So that's kind of how I see AI. But AI, I'll get into it a little bit in a bit, but AI's come to a different point than just an ATM. So what I'm trying to say, Paul, is that my point is that Microsoft Word, since I've always been pretty sloppy at spelling, I learned that I really always leaned into that spell check, and autocorrect on your phone and stuff like that. And I've never really thought about it as being a bad speller in my lifetime. I think back in the day, I think it's just, right now, it's really arbitrary if you're not the best at spelling, because it's just an arbitrary way of expressing verbal words with written symbols. And as everybody who learns English, it's really weird, and English is just a weird spelled language, kind of like French. So it's not exactly intuitive like Spanish or like Polish, where it's one of those languages where if you can say it, you can spell it. So I think it's funny, just for me, because it made me a little bit self-conscious actually when I was a journalist, because my level of spelling is not like peak level. I get like little comments from my editors here and there, just like for like silly things here and there, like using homonyms by accident. Homonym being something that sounds the same but spelled differently. English, of course. I know other languages have those too. But at the same time, I was also praised by people about my feature-length pieces, my ability to dig into complex topics and explore it, and my other features like Humans of New York style people features. So there was kind of that clearly I'm doing my job good, but I get a little bit of flack here and there about spelling, which is fine. If you use the wrong word, that matters. So while I may not have been the best choice of a person back in the day as a journalist, I don't think now it really matters that much. It's more about, is my end result good, and do I have the tools to check myself, kind of thing. So like I was saying, I have always felt like I've been using the tools as they were intended to be used. Does that make sense so far, what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think it's a weird topic in the sense that I do think that it is a tool to use, and there are definitely jobs that won't be eliminated, but I think that there are a lot of jobs that the more years go on, which is the same with any technology, but as the years continue, there will be jobs that are entirely eliminated. Like even lawyers, this is before Chat GPT and shit like that. Even lawyers are being hit by technology. Lawyers have been losing their jobs progressively over time due to just computer technologies, which probably include AI, just much more rudimentary forms of AI than what Chat GPT is, I guess, which is, kind of a misnomer too, because Chat GPT is only what the public has seen of AI, which likely indicates that it's actually a fairly nerfed version of what is actually out there, especially because Chat GPT on like day 2 after the launch, they had to nerf the living fuck out of it, because day 1 it had too many capacities to be allowable for the public to use and have access to. Day 2 they like absolutely nerfed the shit out of it, because they didn't want people to use it to like do extremely complicated crimes and stuff.
Yeah. So like it's a tool. Like ChatGPT is a tool that people can use to do things that like obviously it's a tool that has risks. All tools that do, and that that example said like, oh, these risks are we don't know the unintended risks yet, so we're gonna nerf it. We're gonna make it more limited. Like all tools, like spell check, it might give you a homophone for a word, or like in Microsoft Word, it's not the best at figuring out the right spelling or like the right intention of what you're trying to think. It guesses. It's a guess. It's always these tools are guessing at what you're trying to do. Like the more info you put in, the better answer you're going to get out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like Chat GPT goes like way above Microsoft Word, obviously. Like I've played around with it for work. It definitely lives. It lives up to the hype. I don't think it does live up to hype, is what I'm trying to say, but I can see it getting up to that hype one day, and that like maybe that's what's just being held back at the moment. They're trying to, keep it. They're trying to, before it does something stupid, make sure it doesn't do something stupid.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's interesting because I think what is in part scary about AI is when you combine it with the internet, in the sense that, well, I mean, there's a lot of fucked up shit on the internet, but that's just one part of the conversation. The other part of the conversation is, Microsoft has come along and they're like, let's combine Bing and ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will basically be
Bard.
It got barred.
No, like that's the name. It's like a web browser plus AI, and it's called Bard, and it's by Microsoft.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I don't read the news or anything much, but I just kind of hear bits and pieces. But Bard is a crazy concept in the sense that basically, because AIs use machine learning to figure out what it is that humans focuses on, right? Like what is it that we're looking for when we ask a question, and it figures out the response based on that. It tries to aim towards what we want, and then it gets our feedback to say, hey, yeah, you did give me what I wanted, or you didn't give me what I wanted. The crazy thing, if you combine that with the internet and searching stuff on the internet, is that people are asking, how many millions of questions all day. And if you give it feedback, right, and I'm sure they'll add that feature.
They do have it, yeah. ChatGPT has it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you can give it feedback and say, no, you didn't really answer my question right. You need to do more research on this. And that's what it's going to do. And that's what it's going to do on an extremely hypermassive scale. So it will inform itself about literally almost every topic imaginable to the human brain, because people are not Googling, obviously, but people are searching for information all day long, millions of times. So it's going to become an expert on all of the things that we are most interested in learning about. Basically, it will have all of the knowledge of the internet at a certain point in time, which is absolutely insane to think about. And it will figure out the right answers to stuff with enough feedback and with enough testing of its answers. So I think it absolutely does have the potential to eventually eliminate many, many jobs. I mean, at a scale that is absolutely unprecedented compared to previous technologies. Absolutely. That's just my opinion, but I don't. That's what I see personally. I think once you combine it with the internet, it's definitely going to be very disruptive.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're there. Like you
Yeah.
know, Microsoft released Bard. It made an error immediately. They did like some promo thing. I didn't look into it, but like it wasn't like a huge error. It was just a fact error. It was talking about it was like the first telescope to or something to see something, and then immediately astronomers were like, "This is wrong."
Yeah.
Like, how did you use this as a promo piece without fact checking it?
Well, and
so it just like day one or day two, it immediately got like. It like wiped off like 10% of like Microsoft stock.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's definitely going to be some hiccups in the beginning. And that's what I'm saying though. Now what it's going to do is it's going to go read those articles written by those astronomers and correct itself. Like, that's what you ideally set it up to do.
Yeah, and I think also is also on part like there's still humans making this, so
yeah, exactly. That's the other side too. Is like, our imperfections will absolutely be appearing,
and like how much misinformation and just like just things that are just wrong around the internet. Like people, the information that just keeps getting repeated and people keep saying it. Like for example, pizza is actually an American invention and it comes from New York and it sounds plausible-ish. But and I've met people who've been fooled by this. This got me very shortly one day where I was like, oh, that makes sense, and then like a day later I was like, wait a second. I was like, this is like hundreds, if not like 1,000 years back. I'm like, and I look into it. I'm like, yeah, of course it's not. But like you can say something that sounds plausible and be like, oh yeah, pizza as we know it today came from you. Like no. And so like that's just like a really trivial thing that doesn't have any effect on the world, But there's other things where it might.
Yeah.
And there's so much of that stuff on the internet. Like, I think it needs like some people to, for at least for the time being, probably like still regulate that. But also like it's trying to learn everything all at once, and a person cannot regulate everything all at once. Or at least fact check, or and that's what like user feedback is for, I guess. But even user feedback can be wrong. So,
yeah. Even academic articles, you can feed it academic articles all day, and it's going to find some really fucked up, like biased and horrible content. Absolutely, it's going to find some duds produced by people out there, but. Yeah, like one of my favorite false facts, let's say, is people are like, oh, daddy long-legs can't bite you because their legs are too long. And it's like...
Oh, that's not true.
You're wrong.
There's something similar that goes around here when I wrote actually I don't know the answer to this. Is that so we have a lot of daddy long legs here. Like there's just a spider. Like they don't usually come inside or anything, but they're just long-legged. They're like little bodies, long legs, as you know, daddy long legs. But the thing that I grew up hearing is that like they're actually one of the most venomous spiders in the world, but their fangs are too small. They can't penetrate their skin.
Which is largely along the same ridiculous line, right? It's like, dude, people come up with the most silly stuff. How would a spider, right? Like, it would die off. That species would rapidly go extinct if it couldn't bite you because its legs were too long and it had ineffective fangs. Which, some of that shit could be plausible, but the legs thing in particular is like, I'm like, come on, you can see at face value that that's bullshit. Like, you don't need to be a researcher or something. You just look at that. No, that's wrong.
So, Paul, what are you bringing for Cultural Corner today?
Well, so you wanted me to talk about Super Bowl, so I'm going to talk about it for about... I'm going to talk about it for, like, a quick prelude. So...
Great. So, like, this just ended not that long ago, actually. While we were recording, it ended. Last time I checked, it was 35-35, and it's Kansas City won 38-35. So they were the underdogs because that's all I've heard about is the Eagles.
Maybe you've heard about the Eagles because they're the underdog.
Oh, they were. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I've heard is just people talk.
I'm kidding. Okay. I know nothing about it at all. But which is funny because I'm about to talk about it. But
all right. USA.
Norman's like, you know what you need to talk about for Cultural Corner today, right? And I'm like, it's the only thing you were like, it's the only thing you can talk about. And I was like, no, not really. He's like, the Super Bowl. And I'm like, I'm not that kind of American. No, but anyway, no, I just mean I don't really follow football. So American football, let's say. So the Super Bowl, I'm just going to go over it. What I do know is the final game of American football in the NFL, the National Football League, as it's called in America. And
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is the Super Bowl just like the top two teams and they just face off? Is that how it works?
Exactly.
Like, is there a playoffs? I have no idea how it works.
It's like brackets and stuff, right? So you get down to the top two teams. They play. It's a lot of games, of course. It's like.
Is it similar to like NHL playoffs, or like it's just you go into playoffs and then they face each other and then they get knocked out. They face each other and then they get knocked down. And then it's an East versus West and then they play.
That sounds right. I don't know if it's East versus West, but
we just don't know. This is not the podcast for all your up to date NFL news.
No, it definitely isn't. And I mean, speaking of NHL, I know even less about that. So, not the best reference for me, but yeah. So Super Bowl, there's been a bunch of them. You might know better than me since you've read about it today, but there's probably we're probably on like 50 something. 60.
That sounds maybe? About right to me. I don't know.
60-ish.
Super Bowl LV, so that's 52. No, what?
55.
L means 50. 55. No, that's 57.
55. Oh, 57?
No. Yeah.
LV2?
Yeah. LV11, so that'd be.
Oh, yeah 57. Yeah, so 57. There's been a bunch of them, 57 to be specific. And they're known for funny or creative advertisement on the commercial break, and then also like big halftime show, music and famous singers, stuff like that. Big dancing.
So it's funny, in Canada, we always, like on the news, the next day they always, or the night of, they always just play Super Bowl commercials, as that's just a universal thing all news stations will do, and be like, all right, and let's look at our funniest Super Bowl commercials, and then they just play them.
Yeah. They seem to have been getting a lot worse since, like, I shouldn't say that exactly because I haven't really watched them consistently, because I don't watch the Super Bowl, but they seem to have gone down in comedic value since like 2008 or so.
All right. Any other updates? Yeah,
so my other cultural corner, I just kind of threw that in there, but actually it ended up kind of being kind of long, but that's okay. We're going to move on. So it's well known that non-Americans consider Americans to be loud, literally talking loud. But what they don't know is how crazy it is to go to a place where people are really fucking quiet when you come from a culture that's really loud. Because, like, for example, when I went to England with Kat, you could just be walking through a city, dead silence. There would be like 100 people around, dead silence. Crazy. From an American perspective, totally insane. Like, when people are that quiet, because when people are that quiet in America, something's up, Like, there's a comet coming towards the earth, like, you're about to die, you know what I mean?
Honestly, I cannot relate at all to this. I have no idea what you're talking about. Like,
really?
When you're walking down like a city street and like, what do you mean? Like, there's just not people talking?
You're walking, they're talking, but they you'll literally see them kind of relative to like America, Canada, places where we talk louder, they physically, bundle up together and they talk right into a person's ear, or that's what
I've never noticed the difference between this Canada or or your
Well,
street noise?
Well, go to like a really quiet place though. Go to Cambridge. Go to Oxford or someplace in England.
Go to the university towns where people are studying and quiet.
I guess they're quiet where they study. I don't know. No, it's probably in much of England, but I think Denmark, Sweden, places like that are similar. But it's very shocking to be from a loud culture and go to a very quiet culture, because it is kind of unnerving in the sense that, yeah, like I said, we aren't used to people just being quiet like that. Like if they're being quiet, it's like they're either trying to hide something or they're like uh, uncomfortable about something. Something's up. They don't just do that. So when you look around and there's 100 people around you, complete silence, you're like, something's up, man. This is not right. Yeah, so that's what I come up with, Norman.
Interesting. So are you saying there's truth between Americans being loud?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Americans are loud as fuck. I mean, to be specific though, most people are referring to it when they're talking about like Americans being loud in a place where it's considered perhaps impolite to be loud there, like on a bus, for example.
Yeah,
usually when people are talking about it, it's because they were bothered by Americans being loud in a confined public space. It's not usually talking about people outside. That said, there's a massive difference between outside noise in America and England, for example, or other countries where people are quieter. Massive.
Interesting. So, Paul, I'm going to use this word very vaguely, but I made a guest appearance on another podcast.
Really?
We've got an Unmade Podcast spoon, not a prune, which we are going to be giving to one of our Patreon supporters, and that is Norman G. Can you guess what country Norman G's from?
Norman G from Canada?
You are right. He's from
now
Canada.
I remember. I was thrown off because you said guest appearance.
Yeah, I'm using it
vaguely, as you said.
Yes, I was shouted out because I'm a patron to several podcasts, but my favorite podcast is the Unmade Podcast, hosted by Brady Herron and Tim Hine. Childhood friends, I love them, and they make my favorite podcast. I think they have the best idea where it's a podcast about unmade podcasts, and they bring an idea about a podcast that they think should be made, and then to discuss it. And I was shouted out on it recently as a Patreon, so I will be getting not a prune, but a spoon in the mail.
Nice.
So Paul, I just wanted to tell our listeners, if you don't listen to it, I wanted to recommend it, and I guess I'll be working for them from now on, Paul, and that's it. This is very... Oh, no! Pulled too much off. All right, hello.